Coming up on this edition of AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan, we'll recap the win against Navy, look ahead to the trip to Australia, and assistant coach Matt Wolff stops by to discuss recruiting and his family's love of basketball. AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan starts right now. Welcome into AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan. And, Coach, let's jump right into the game against Navy, coming off a win that you guys picked up over at Alumni Hall, a game that you look at, shooting. You guys had 61% from the floor, held them to 31%. You had 5 players in double-digit scoring, Saeed, James, Mark, Charlie. I mean, it was a game that seemed like everything clicked.
Yeah, I thought we had 2 actually really good practices before the game. I thought we were, as prepared as we can be offensively. Their matchup zone is sort of a difficult thing to crack. You don't know where your shots are coming from. So it was a lot of sort of, open sort of offense for our guys, and they just made a lot of good decisions. They moved the ball around well, and we made shots.
When you look at practice, what was it in those practices that you knew going into the game against Navy? Wow, okay, we seem that we've figured some stuff out here.
Well, I didn't know.
Okay.
I knew after the game. But no, I mean, the guys have been working hard. They, it's not easy to sort of continue to work hard and get better at this point of the year, especially, with our record. But the guys are sticking with it. They're learning each day, and that, you see them picking things up. I thought Gasparini had a really good second half. He's way more aggressive. It's sort of, something seemed to click a little bit there. But the guys have been great. They're just sort of sharing the ball. Everyone's looking to contribute. So I thought, Semino obviously gave us terrific minutes last night. So that was great to see from him.
And let's talk about him and how you've seen his game sort of mature through the season, in particular in the game against Navy.
Well, he's in better shape, so he can, play longer. In the beginning of the year, we were just sort of splitting him. Mark was getting into foul trouble, so he had to play center a ton. All his minutes basically at center. So then we also taught him the forward spot, which is not easy to learn, 2 different positions. But he's a good player. He's got good instincts, so he's picking things up well. So to be able to play, both those guys together, really helps us out.
Now, were you really happy to see Saeed come away with 19 points? I know a few weeks ago you said he might have been hitting a bit of a block considering the number of minutes that he's played, in his freshman season. Came away with 19 points in the Navy game.
We're sort of finding ways to rest him a little bit here and there, just a minute or 2 in each half, and I think that's helping a lot. But he's a competitor. I don't expect him to hit the wall and, stay down too long. He's getting better too. Shot selection, just management of the game, everything that he's doing. It's just getting better each day.
Now, of course, as we hit the stretch run for this season, looking forward, I know coaches don't like to, but we're going to go ahead and talk about the off season a little bit. Australia is coming up for you. Talk about how that idea came up to take the team to Australia as your trip.
You're allowed to take a foreign tour every 4 years. I thought that recruiting is one reason. It's a lot of terrific players down there. They speak English, so it's a little easier to get them in the school. And it's type of place where when else are you going to go to Australia? The competition's very good, so I thought it would just be a great trip for us and the team.
Now, how long are you guys going to go for? How many extra practices do you get? Games, like from the basketball component of it, what are you getting?
Most coaches, that's the biggest plus is the practices that you get. You get 10 days of practice before you go on the trip. So especially, we got a pretty big freshman class coming in, guys that we're going to need to rely on. So, getting them that extra work before the trip and then having them get their feet wet a little bit playing against some, professional teams over there will hopefully help us out for the fall and the coming season.
Now, how much did you think about when you put together the trip, where you wanted to go? Or was that kind of you went to a company or someone and, kind of take us through the process of how the trip itself was mapped out and where you're going to go in Australia?
Right. There's Basketball Travelers, sort of organizes trips. That's what we used. I've been on a few of them with, at Princeton and at Georgetown. So we've been to Spain. We were in China with Georgetown. I didn't necessarily want to go back there after that experience. But I just thought that Australia would be, a fun place to go. I mean, everyone who's been down there, on these types of trips have, just raved about the experience. And I thought it's just a once in a lifetime, opportunity for us and the players.
Now you get a chance a little bit away from basketball to experience Australia. Anything in particular that you're looking forward to? You can do any of the shark diving or any of the crocodile wrestling or any of that stuff you're going to get into?
I won't be in the water too much. I mean, obviously you can tell I'm not a outdoorsy guy. But I heard the zoo. I heard we should go to the zoo. But obviously the basketball travelers will have a lot of things set up for us, to experience everything that that we should when we're down there.
So there's nothing in particular that you're saying, when I'm in Australia, I've got to do?
Not in particular, no. To be honest, I'm thinking about those practices, unfortunately. But I know it's going to be a fun trip.
I'm sure it will be.
I know what I'm not going to do is go shark diving or be in a tank with sharks. So.
Well, but you could be in the cage and the sharks are outside the cage.
No, I know. I know how it works. So.
I'm sure it'll be a fun trip. We'll take a break here on AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan. When we continue, assistant coach Matt Wolff joins the discussion.
In the Patriot League, our playbooks look a little different. Here, we play to win on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. A competitive athletic experience with high academic standards. Today's scholar athlete, tomorrow's leaders. That's the Patriot League.
Welcome to our sleepy little college town. You may have heard of us. Here we stand up for causes as naturally as we sit down for classes. We believe that knowledge, understanding, and discovery will make the world a better place, and that our contributions are only limited by our imaginations. Words, medals, and degrees don't make us who we are. Meaningful change does.
We are American.
And there's nothing we would rather be.
Welcome back to AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan. We're now joined by assistant coach Matt Wolff. And Matt, thanks for taking some time out. You've been around the program for a long time. Nice to have you on the show here. 3 years as director of ops. Then you made the transition into coaching. You grew up with your father, Dennis, a coach, an assistant, and a head coach as well at the D1 level, a women's head coach. So you've been around basketball your entire life. At what point do you kind of remember basketball becoming a part of it, watching it, playing it?
Right. I remember being at Wake Forest games as a kid. I'd say that my first memory of it. But I'd say that the more so when he was an assistant coach at the University of Virginia, going to games. Me and my sister were ball boys and girls. So we were sitting behind the bench when Duke came to town and things like that. So it was fun.
So what really do you remember about that? Like anything in particular that you were like, wow, this is cool, and all the people and the energy being that close to it?
Yeah, so I was a ball boy. When you got to UVA, each game they had an assignment of where the ball boys and girls would work. So you're behind the bench, behind the visiting bench, behind the basket. So I was behind the basket when they beat Duke, who was #1 in the country. And I can remember my mom running down because they were going to storm the court. She was just curl up under the basket and try not to get stampeded by the students. So that was a funny memory about that time.
So is that what you did?
That's what I did, yep. Yeah, there's no saying no to her. So.
Right. Now you mentioned the University of Virginia, and that's an interesting storyline because of your family's closeness with Jeff Jones, a former coach here at American University, that brought you in as a director of operations. Talk about your relationship with JJ, because you've known him for most of your life.
Right, I've known him since as long as I can remember. I have a great relationship with him. I still talk to him to this day. He's coming into town this weekend for the WCAC playoffs. But I got lucky. He hired me. I was 1 year out of college playing at BU, and I was working in Philadelphia. And this job, the director of operations job, came open, and I was lucky enough to have have him offer me the job, but I've known him forever. Like you were saying earlier, my dad was an assistant for him at the University of Virginia for 4 years in the early 90s. So.
Now, when you talk about operations and director of ops, I mean, so much goes into that. But how much have you been able to kind of, did you use that, I guess, as a stepping stone into parlaying that into getting onto Coach Brennan's staff?
Yes. I think the director of basketball operations is essentially at every program in the country, fourth assistant coach. You're not allowed to do a lot of the different things that the assistant coaches are allowed to do, but once you've been on the staff for a couple of years, you begin to have a little bit of a voice, and you see the way recruiting works and things like that. And so I tried to, right before Coach Jones got the job at Old Dominion, I had been made an assistant coach, and it was the shortest assistant coaching stint ever. It was about a 2-week stint before he got the Old Dominion job. But I think it was just knowing Coach Brennan a little bit prior, his relationship with Coach Jones, and then a lot of luck that I was able to stay around.
Now you talk about basketball, and you played it in college at Boston University. Cool thing is you got to play for your dad. How was that experience?
It was good when we were winning. I had injuries. So my freshman year we had a very good team. We went to the NIT. And then my sophomore and junior year, I sat out almost the entire time with knee injuries. And once I came back, it was a fun experience. That was the level player I was going to be. So
yeah.
It wasn't any sort of favoritism stuff going on with him, but it was interesting. It was good. I wouldn't trade it in for anything.
Now, how much did he? I'm assuming that he worked with you a lot. Your sister played at UConn for Gino Auriemma. How much did he work with you? And I'm talking like from kid to the point when you guys went to college.
When we were like in elementary school and middle school, he just really encouraged us to play as much as possible. When me and my sister are only 11 months apart, so when we came home from school, it was drop the backpacks and we just go outside and start playing one-on-one, shooting around, messing around in the backyard. And going from there. And, once we got a little older, we would play, my dad still played all the time. He played at UConn, LSU, and then UConn as well. So we, had some, battles of one-on-one in the backyard before he got, too old or, anything like that. So it was, but once we got more, into high school, he'd help us where he could. But, he was obviously still the head coach at Boston University at that time, so his time was taken. He didn't have a lot of time to do individual workouts with his daughter and son. So, it was more watching us, advising us, and then just telling us, if we wanted to be good, you got to practice on your own.
Now, one of your focus points as a coach here at AU is working with the forwards. What makes a good forward within Coach Brennan's scheme, within that Princeton style that you guys run?
I think just being able to do everything that guards can do. Being able to dribble and pass and see the floor, and it certainly helps to be able to make a three, as we've been able to see this year. But I think just having an understanding of the game, maybe having played a little bit of point guard growing up, or playing guard for your high school team. But I think that's basically it. More than anything, just not thinking of yourself as a forward, but thinking of yourself as a basketball player who can do really anything on the court.
So from that, let's talk about a couple of the young guys that you have coming in next year. Let's start with Sam Iorio. I know that we've talked to Mike before on the show about him, and he's really high on him. A lot of accolades with Sam. What do you see in him, throughout the recruiting process as he makes his way here to AU?
Well, I think a lot of the things I was just talking about, he can, he's a very good shooter, and he's also, for his high school team, had to play a number of different positions. Prior to this year, he had a very, very good team that went deep into the state tournament every year, won district championships. They had Kyle Stout, that's on Lafayette, was a high school teammate of his. Their point guard is a backup quarterback at the University of Virginia, so they had a lot of guys around him, and this year he's had to do a lot of the heavy lifting on his own. So I think his just overall understanding of what it takes to win, and then his versatility as a player is going to be a huge asset.
Now, Drew Lamont, you guys are getting out of Florida, so you got to rack up a little bit of the frequent flyer miles to go down there to watch Drew play. What type of skills does he bring, and how do they maybe differentiate a little bit from what Sam's bringing in?
Right. He's a little taller than Sam, but he's also a terrific three-point shooter. I think that's what he does best right now. We're going to have to get him better at dribbling and seeing the court and all that type of stuff that maybe he hasn't done quite as much with his high school team. But I think he's eager to get better. I mean, as soon as his high school season ended, he was texting me asking for things he could do to work on his game to get ready for July 1st when all those guys get here for summer school. So, but I'd say what he does best right now is definitely make threes.
Now, you guys this offseason getting a chance to go to Australia. How much are you looking forward to that?
I'm looking forward to getting there. I'm not looking forward to the flight.
Right. What is it, like 24, 26 hours, something ridiculous like that?
Traveling. Yeah. So,
But once you're there,
easier. Once we're there, I'm excited to play the games. See the sights. I don't really know a whole lot about Australia, so
you haven't started digging deep into figuring out
not
like.
Yet. No, I have a wedding in June that I need to get through first. So.
Now, with the trip to Australia, anything that you might want to do? Anything that you think about, like with the whole shark thing? Everybody talks about the sharks and the crocodiles and all that stuff. Nothing with that?
No, I mean I'll do anything in the water. I'm not going anywhere near sharks. I've heard guys talk about doing some type of Shark Tank thing. I'll be on the boat for that.
Now the planning process for the wedding, how's that going?
Good. Knock on wood.
And you're because it's basketball season and you're doing so much. It's a lot of that is left up to the other party.
Not really. She's a nurse, so her time is just as filled up. I think we got a lot of the stuff done. I think once the season ends, hopefully it doesn't end for a while, but
right.
We'll have to look at a little tighter lens to see how much we got left to do.
So a busy next couple of weeks and couple of months for Matt Wolff. We'll take a break. Back with more on AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan right after this.
Welcome to our sleepy little college town. You may have heard of us. Here we stand up for causes as naturally as we sit down for classes. We believe that knowledge, understanding, and discovery will make the world a better place, and that our contributions are only limited by our imaginations. Words, medals, and degrees don't make us who we are. Meaningful change does.
We are American.
And there's nothing we would rather be.
One more! Oh, touchdown!
And welcome back to AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan. And Coach, we just had a chance to talk with Matt Wolff. From your perspective, what does he bring to the staff?
Well, he's terrific in every capacity. I mean, I'm so happy that I decided to keep him. He was here with JJ before. And, I mean, he just, on the court, he's great. Recruiting, he's great. Just, you couldn't ask for a better guy, a harder worker. And he's brought in, several players that are going to have good careers here.
Yeah, and he's worked with the forwards and a couple big guys that he has coming in, Sam Iorio and Drew Lamont. Let's talk about them and sort of how you see their high school careers wrapping up before they make the trek here to AU.
Yeah, well, they both had really good senior years. They're both versatile. They both can shoot, which is important in how we play. So I just like everything that both of those guys bring. They play for good programs. They play, they compete at a high level. So I think they're both going to be able to come in and help us right away.
Now, one final game as far as the regular season goes for you guys. A lot at stake. Going to Loyola to face the Greyhounds. Talk about how you see the matchup going, and especially, you got to go up against Andre Walker again.
Yeah, now Walker and Jones are, a tough duo. So, and it's been a while since we played them. That was, our first league game. So, sort of refreshing our guys as to who they are. And then hopefully, just building. Hopefully, we're a very different team than we were when we played them our first game. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we're going to do all the things that we feel we've gotten better at since then. But again, it's going to be a tough game. Walker can really score. No matter what you do, he's a good one-on-one player. So you can do all you want. You're going to have a guy and a guy. And regardless, he's a tough matchup. And the same with Jarrett Jones. There's not much you can do with really good one-on-one players. So, we got to sort of control everybody else. It's going to be a team effort and figure out ways to score.
And we'll see how all of it shakes out Saturday at noon. For complete coverage, be sure and check out AUEagles.com. That'll do it for this edition of AU Hoop Talk with Coach Mike Brennan. For Coach and for Matt Wolff, I'm Dan Laing. Have a great one.